Ever since I was little, I've been wanting to go to college.
When I would grow up, I would like to be a police officer.
When I grow up, I want to be a firefighter.
And hopi we say umitata na ya. They're our future. Our corn, our fields, our plants, those are all our kids too. We do not change anything because they give us life, they give us food, they nurture them. So we have to take care of our kids just like we take care of our plants, just nurture them, feed them. It balances, and we forget those balances sometimes.
What's happening in our schools is a direct result of the divestment that we've experienced, not only in terms of school funding, but in terms of our communities.
When I visit schools across New Mexico and across the country, I see children who are motivated to learn, children who are just as capable, who are just as smart, and I see teachers who are just as capable, just as passionate about their craft, who love the children that they're teaching. So what it tells me is that there's some sort of issue in the broader system, and that system is resourced and delivered by the state of New Mexico.
We have to educate our children, regardless of the issues that they come to school with. So our challenge is, how do we have the resources to provide what they need?
We know that by the end of third grade, only 35% of third graders are reading at a proficient level. It's something that I think is especially problematic here because we have a large amount of the population where English is a second language. And so if we aren't giving them the skills to be able to even cope at a basic reading level, then what is going to happen when they start getting into the higher grades?
It's obvious just by looking at the academic outcomes of our students that something's not working. The entire system is not working effectively for our children, and we need to do something different.
So as a result of things that are happening in students' lives and everything that they're dealing with, we know that students will not perform at their best if their social and emotional needs are not first being met.
We can't just deliver from a technical aspect, whatever the standard curriculum is to them. We have to meet them on a human level, which means we have to provide 360-degree wraparound services. We have to have social workers. There's a huge shortage of social workers. And so what ends up happening is if you don't resource the socio-emotional piece of things, then an undue burden falls upon teachers.
What I'm advocating for the students is things that I wish I could have advocated for myself. Coming from a home where my mom did her best, there's barriers and there's gaps that she couldn't fill. And I'm not going to put myself in a vulnerable situation because the only resources that I knew were out there were things that would take me away from my mom. If I had an after-school program, then I would go to the after-school program if I knew they're serving meals. It's just a place, a safe place where I can find the support that I need, where I can find the resources that I needed. I think that's why it's really powerful to me, because I've experienced it.
I remember thinking about systems and how systems impact the lives of real people. There was a system in my school that every morning there were a very small handful of kids that would line up in the lobby of the school in front of the front office, and we were lining up for our free lunch ticket. So everybody walking through the school doors automatically knew who was getting free lunch or who was getting reduced lunch and so on. And we sat at separate tables even. So economically, our entire cafeteria was segregated. I became so ashamed that by 5th grade, I just quit eating lunch. That whole sociocultural component that happens in the schools and the teasing that you face and the way that those systems make you feel less than. And they really rattle your confidence and think, wow, if I'm less than in the cafeteria, am I less than in the classroom?
One of the most significant areas, if we talk about relevance in education for Indian children, is one, to have language, culture, and history a part of that curriculum, so that education isn't something that is separated from your existence in a community.
So since there's 93% of Native American students are attending public schools, I believe that public schools, whether you're one school or a district, really need to engage the community in thinking about the intersection of academic achievement, identity development, and holistic wellness. And it needs to be school-wide, and it needs to be a conversation to really get clear on what it is we're trying to accomplish, not necessarily just having one class that you might have in your educational experience that teaches you about Native American history.
If you invest in a fully funded, comprehensive, and universal early childhood education system, beginning at birth with home visitation, all the way through pre-kindergarten, you will turn this state around. 84% of brain development happens by the age of 3, yet 95% of our children are not having any type of intervention before the age of 3.
Si mi hijo grande no tuvo la oportunidad de asistir a un programa de pre-kinder, puesto que los primeros años tuvo que necesitar un poco de ayuda de tutoría después de escuela, a diferencia de mi hijo más pequeño, que sí pudo atender un programa de pre-kinder. Él ya entró con suficientes bases a nivel kinder, él ya leía, él ya tenía más conocimiento del alfabeto, de los colores, tenía un poco más del lenguaje y no ha necesitado ayuda de tutoría.
New Mexico is very wealthy in natural resources. We have the second largest equity fund in the country and the 33rd largest equity fund in the world out of 190 some nations. That fund sits at $15 billion. That fund was set up when we became a state in 1912 with the idea that it would help pay for public education for every child in the state.
About 43% of the budget is spent on K-12 education, but an independent study indicated that we should be spending about 50% of our state budget on education just to get to sufficiency. We're underfunding education by about $360 million a year right now.
the New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty, after hearing from a number of families and school districts, decided to file litigation against the state for failing to provide a constitutionally sufficient education to all students, in particular our Native American children, our English language learners, and our students who are in poverty.
If we don't invest in public education, you are really voting or investing against your own self-interest.
Consistently, we are spending a smaller and smaller proportion of the budget to go toward education. And when you live in a community or in an area, and in fact a whole state, where there's lots of poverty, it costs more to educate a student, to have the kind of resources in the classroom.
A lot of my family are in the medical profession. I want to talk to people around my community and in my family and make them understand what's going on in the doctor's office.
As we were growing up, they always told us that the children are the future leaders of tomorrow. So what we're trying to do is build a foundation to protect, to build up their internal capacities and capabilities for someday they might be a governor, they might be a tribal leader, they might be a chief of police, a judge. Now those are our dreams for them. It's all of us that reside within the community that want to focus on what we feel our children should be accomplishing as they're born till they pass on. But you got to be at the table in order to create that plan. And that's what's going to be very important.